Going, we're live. And I don't know why every week I'm like, we're live.
It's pretty exciting. I mean, when did we start Coffee Chat? Good
I
morning,
was-
everyone. Hi. Let's do a banner. When did we start Coffee Chat?
I actually love that you asked me this question because just last night I was at the boathouse and a former rower of mine who has moved showed up last night and we were chatting for the first time in a few years. And he was talking to me about the podcast that he listens to, and I suggested he join us for coffee chat. He said, "How long have you been doing it?" I was like, I don't know. I think we've been doing coffee chat a good year and a half, right? We got started with Steady State in 2020. I feel like we started coffee chat
That
2021.
pretty soon after that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. So it's been a while, steady every Friday. This morning, my husband says to me, "Are you doing coffee chat?" I said, always, always Friday morning.
That's true. And it's interesting because it takes a while for people to find us, and kind of join us, and it never feels long enough. But I have to tell you that um I love it. I love coffee chat. But I'm actually drinking coffee today because I had a sleepover somewhere else last night unexpectedly, and
Yes.
I got taken to the coffee stand here in Burton.
Yeah.
I know that sounds more salacious than it actually is. Not- but I'm having coffee. But I have to also say that I didn't fall asleep until 3:30 this morning because I was fully awake, like as if I'd eaten like half a bar of dark chocolate, like that feeling of just like,
Yeah.
like I literally could have gotten up and done
Wow.
like 18 haircuts. Like I was like, what
Yeah.
the fuck is happening? And I realized yesterday, Pollard Coffee, this local brewery on the island, coffee brewer on the island, delivered a small vat of cold brew that I started serving to my customers, right? Totally a deal. But my last sip was like at 1 o'clock yesterday, and I
Okay.
think that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
Coursing through my veins until
Ooh,
3:30 this morning. So
that's amazing.
here's to a long day today.
Yeah.
Um, so we have a lot to discuss. Nobody's here
Hmm.
yet. I bet people are on vacation.
Yeah,
Um,
they might be.
I posted it on my stories. Anyway, what's up this week? How's your rowing week?
It's been a good week. I got to row last weekend, like actually in a boat or in hand instead of being out on the launch. For folks that have joined us the last few weeks, we've talked a lot about East Bay Rowing Club's Boat Without Barriers Regatta, which
Yes.
they were hosting. They were hosting kind of as an to alternative is kind of the wrong word, but they were boycotting Masters Nationals and planned Boats Without Barriers. For the first time ever, Boats Without Barriers was held in Oakland. And I went out there from DC with 3 of my rowers from DC Strokes. And look what I got.
Did you get any swag too? Did you get any shirts or swag?
I bought an East Bay Rowing Club tank top that was in their bargain bin. I did not buy one of the regatta tees, but they are available on the website.
I don't need any more. I just wondered.
I know. I totally don't need any more t-shirts, but I couldn't resist. It was adorable. It was $10 and I bought it. So my week started, last weekend with Boats Without Barriers in Oakland. I got to get in a women's 4 and
Ooh,
a
how was
mixed. The women's 4 was pretty solid. Like once we kind of got up to speed, it felt powerful. It felt pretty good. I knew that the 3 other women were relatively new rowers, I think with 2 or fewer years of experience. But it was pretty solid. And the woman, I rowed 3-seat, which was awesome, not bow. And stroke seat was like covered in ink, which was so
Ooh,
cool. I've actually never rode behind someone with that much ink before, so it was fascinating. Like, I was looking at her story while I was
yeah.
rowing. Yeah,
People so my former teammates look at this tattoo here when
yeah,
I row. They like
yeah.
to look at that because it's sitting right there. Yeah,
Do you have a is that the
the
nuclear
atomic
symbol?
the atomic symbol, yeah.
The atomic symbol, yeah, back there. And then later in the day, I got to row in a mixed 8. Got to row in a mixed 8. Blades went in, blades came out, we crossed the finish line. And I
Sprint
huh?
race? This was a sprint?
Yeah, 1K.
Ooh.
Yeah. Again, lots of new rowers. I was just thankful that East Bay Rowing Club really opened up their doors to DC Strokes and helped us put together composite boats. We didn't have enough rowers to boat our own lineups, so I was just happy to get in a boat and go.
It looked
Um,
like you had a lovely time that, like, the hospitality was there, you guys got treated to some
yeah,
awesome people.
yeah.
I'm on board with that, like a traveling, like a host regatta. Hold on a second, the cat is eating my flowers. Hold on.
Sure. Um,
Oh,
so I can
man.
talk a little bit more about East Bay Rowing Club. Everybody was super nice. They were super welcoming. I think we actually, I guess, talked about. Oh no, I talked to you last Friday after I just practiced with them, but before the regatta. What was awesome, Tara, is through conversations, some like light bulbs went off with some people, and they kind of put two and two together and realized that I'm a co-host with you of Steady State Podcast, and people were like, "Oh my god!" and totally wanted to talk to me about Steady State and Steady State Podcast, and
Starstruck?
we got nice feedback from people. Yeah, I'd like to connect with some folks from ZLAC and some other clubs out there on the West
Oh,
Coast. Yeah,
I still think we should put it on our calendar to go to San Diego Crew Classic
yeah.
and maybe Zlack can be our club spotlight that month, or
hmm
something, or do Zlack around San Diego Crew Classic or
You
something.
know,
Zlack is the coolest.
you know what, Tara? I'm glad that you mentioned Crew Classic because I just saw something just yesterday. I think that next year is going to be its 50th anniversary.
Oh my god, we totally have to go.
No,
Okay,
yeah.
here's my caveat. Why don't you ship to yourself a bunch of your shirts
Oh, and be a vendor out there.
and just be like a little like just a t-shirt vendor, like not making
Mm.
stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
Like make it worth your while.
yeah,
We could do a steady state row source tent
yeah.
again, and then we interview Slack as our club spotlight.
Mm-hmm. All
Put
right,
it
putting it in the
I know, I'm
notes.
gonna need some sunshine. I mean, I'm going to Mexico in January. Feel
Yeah.
free to join me if you like.
Ooh.
Um, I know, I'm going January 13th through 21.
Oh, January 13th through 21. Hey, I do want to talk with you about that, but that's an interesting segue because US Rowing just sent out an email about their upcoming convention. And instead of it being late in the year, like December, they're pushing the convention to early 2023. And they are proposing two different dates. One of them is January 13 to 15. So you'll
Yeah,
be in Mexico.
I'll be on a beach
Or
in Mexico.
February. What's that?
I'll be on a beach in Mexico, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
and I think you should, yeah, love it and enjoy it. Absolutely. Um, so I think this is interesting from US Rowing. I haven't seen this before that they're kind of letting the members have our say about it, either in January or February to run this convention, and either in the Mid Atlantic region or the Northeast. Do you remember a US rowing convention being held out in the Midwest or West Coast ever?
I've gone to it in Seattle,
Okay.
Philadelphia, twice at least,
Mhm.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Yeah.
I wanna say that it was in maybe Texas? Maybe?
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
don't know,
anybody's
maybe
going to go to Michigan in like February,
yeah.
personally.
Maybe I've just been very focused on the East Coast since this is where I am, but yeah, I went down to Florida as well. It was a long, long time ago, but I went to one in Florida.
Oh,
So
Sarasota Springs. Remember they would have it out in bumfuck Sarasota, no, in New York State. Remember they had one year where it was like,
yeah.
it was so hard to get to. It was like you
Ah,
had to like take a plane to Syracuse. It was really
and
expensive.
then
Like going to Jacksonville. Like how
yeah.
expensive, to go there. Please, I love it in Philadelphia because of Boathouse Row, obviously. And then when we had it in Seattle, they called us the LOC, the Pogok Foundation. We were the local organizing group.
Mhm,
Organized like what you and I did on Lake Union. We organized a progressive um, evening where we went from boathouse to boathouse, and each boathouse hosted a little fete thing. We drove those little Duffy electric boats with the plastic siding.
uh-huh,
We piled people in. They all had to meet at one boathouse, and we would just pile people in. It was really fun. And then, but what we didn't remember was it was December, and it
it's
was absolutely miserable outside, and it was at night, and I had never driven a boat on Lake Union at night. I didn't know
yeah,
where buoys were. I didn't know where I was going. I got us stuck on a mud flat. Like, we literally laughed our ass off because we had to, like, push it off a mud flat, you know?
yeah,
So I put the link. So everybody has a unique link for your IP address.
mm,
Like, I can't take this again on my phone. I can take this on my computer screen on a different IP, but people can copy and paste this or whatever. But you had an email from US Rowing yesterday. They've always been like, let's rotate the host city,
mhm,
but um I would think that, like, there's only a few cities that it would make sense in, like, that are easy to get to, that are affordable, that have a boathouse that's a shining example. Like in Jacksonville, it was the university boathouse. We did a big
mhm.
para rowing day there. I don't know, where would you wanna go? I wanna go to Philadelphia. I'm sorry. I love
Y
Philadelphia.
yeah, I like it in Philly, that's an interesting place to go. I mean, there's a lot of rowing here in DC, so I think it'd be awesome if they brought the show down to DC once. It makes sense to me for it to be in Boston. When US Rowing says the Northeast, that's a big area, so I'm not quite sure what they have in mind, and I haven't taken this survey yet. I also don't mind going somewhere where it's warm. So, but I guess this year they would not take it to Florida if they're smart.
Can you imagine? They're like, "And announcing it's in Jacksonville." We'd be like, "And I'm joining Rowing Canada. Thank you so much."
Yeah.
Which I've threatened
So
before.
yeah. So
Uh,
I was glad to see that this message from US Rowing about the 2023 annual convention. And in a way, Tara, in a very selfish way, I'm really excited that they're pushing it into early next year because you and I have started talking about putting together our own small virtual conference online. And we could totally do that in November, December, and not have that bump up against the US Rowing Convention.
if you're just joining us, this is Coffee Chat. There's a few people that just came in, so welcome. Hi, tell us who you are and where you're going from, and then also on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your rowing week going? If you're the type of person that would go to a rowing convention, just FYI, U.S. rowing conventions are open to masters rowers, rower parents, coaches, administrators, board members. So it's actually, there's always something for everyone. Of course, it's just fun to have a beef about US rowing. So we always want something different, but they get to sit around and come up with ideas. But Rachel and I have, hi, Michael Tutloff. Rachel and I really love the idea of bringing back our coaches conference that we had. It was called the Inclusive Coaches Conference. And we talked about boathouse culture, and we talked about how to coach with a whole athlete perspective. And if you'd like to see that come back, give us a thumbs up. It was really fun. It'd be all virtual. We would not do it from in person. Charles practice got stormed out this morning. Larissa, how's that boat coming along? I've been chugging along in 5-seat in my boat. So Larissa is the team captain-ish person for the Charles boat that Rachel is coxing, and that I'm also rowing in 3-seat for Boston.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yay us.
So excited about that. I have we all swear to erg today. Good. Yes. Excellent, Larissa. Um, I have a little bit of work to do on that end because I promised the crew that I was going to design t-shirts for everybody and some long sleeves. And I've been so ridiculously busy the last couple of weeks, but I finally have a breather. So gonna make that happen.
So, good morning. If you're just joining us, Rachel and I are kvetching about U.S. Rowing's email that came out yesterday about the convention. We debriefed a little bit about the East Bay Rowing Club's Boats Without Barriers regatta that Rachel participated in. She flew all the way across the country to participate in this new regatta that was, look at that little bit of bling. So Boats Without Barriers was a new regatta. Put it on your calendar for next year. I hope they're going to do it again next year because
Yeah.
it is the response to U.S. Rowing continuing to send a big FU message to everyone who cares about inclusion and diversity. And so they created their own dang regatta as a result, as a counter to U.S. Rowing Masters Nationals. How's your rowing week going? Are you going to the Charles? Pick a bar for us to meet at. That'd be really fun.
Yeah. So I'm actually really curious about, I think we've talked about this once or twice before. I'm really curious about non-traditional fall races. And this is on my mind because everybody right now is getting ready for the standard head races, right? 3,500 to 5K, something in that range.
Yeah.
And we know about the Chicago River Half Marathon is coming up.
Yep.
And unfortunately, DC Strokes, I think, thought about it a little too late. We haven't been able to pull together a crew. We haven't done the training for it. I know Capital Rowing Club is going. It's on September 11th in Chicago. One of these years, I'm going to get my act together and going to go because I really want to.
I think our media tour is shaping up for next year. We can kick it off in Mexico and as a retreat, and then we can go to the U.S. Rowing Convention wherever it is, and then we'll go to San Diego Crew Classic for the 50th San Diego Crew Classic, and then we'll just like continue to travel like all summer, you know.
Yeah. I just had this idea. I mean, this would take things to like a whole other level, but I just had an idea.
What's up?
We should totally partner up with Rowing the World and get her to help us set up a schedule. And it could not, and we could, we could invite people to join us to, this is because we keep talking about putting together boats for different races. Like, let's lock this in. We'll make it like a whole trip, a whole to do.
Yeah, let's do it. I think Ruth. I'll need you to talk to Ruth though, because I think the last time I spoke to her, she wasn't happy with me.
Oh, okay, we'll talk. We'll talk later. This is like pie in the sky pipe dream, but someday.
Yeah. So the media tour is still. I've been subbing in our Club Marathon 8. They are so impressive. Yeah, for sure. I'm curious what stroke rates are people topping out at right now, because if you're transitioning into fall racing, like you might be topping out your long pieces at 26, for instance, 28 maybe. I know that at our club, they're taking us a little baby steps in the 8, but man, we were cruising at 26 for, we're doing a lot of Ks, and it was really fun. So non-traditional regattas, marathons. So one I wanted to mention was the Otter, Otter, Otter Island Regatta. And it's actually called the Otter Island Touring Regatta. And what this means is it takes place on this windy Snohomish River north of Seattle. Everett Rowing Club is the host, right? It's a great practice run for the Charles. It's very curvy. But what it is it's literally a touring regatta, and it's 8s and quads. And you're just, a lot of our older rowers love to do it because it's real casual, but it's long distance.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like one of the best catered salmon barbecues around. So it's like a brewery is there and salmon barbecue, and that's always September.
Okay. That sounds good.
Not a Charles practice run, and by heart rate standards, but
a good long steady state row.
Yeah. So what are you training for? Let us know in the comments. What are you training for, Charles? Are you getting ready for any local practice runs? How's your week going?
I I was talking to some folks from East Bay that are prepping for a half marathon out there in California. For the life of me at the moment, I've totally blanked on which event that is, what the name is, but I was impressed to hear that there's another club who has sights on a half, and they're training for it. The last morning that I was there, they were doing their erg workout that morning was 16 by 1K on, 1 minute off at 2K pace plus 22. So anyway, it was 16K with a teeny break in between each K. So I think
In
that's an
between each
interesting way to
K, a
Mhm.
minute break in between, like a 1K, but at 2K pace plus
Plus 22, I think was what their coach had them do. So the person that I was staying with, for her, she was rowing at like a 19 at a 2:22-ish split. So that's one of those, I think that's one of those paces where you're like, I can do this for like 5 or 6K, maybe 7, 8K, and then those middle 6K, you're like, I have so many more to go.
um, wow, that's a
So
lot. That's a lot.
Michael says Northern Wisconsin, 154K.
Oh, speaking
That's
of long distances, okay, so there's an event called in the Northwest, run by the Northwest Maritime Center, and it's this really crazy. There's two races. There's the Road to Alaska, or the Race to Alaska, R2AK, and these guys are hilarious. Like all their promotional stuff is really, really, really funny. Like there's like promotional videos of them sitting in lawn chairs, like on some island in Alaska,
yeah.
waiting for people to come by. And the prize is $10,000. It has to be all human powered. People put bicycles on their boats. People put sails on their boats. People row. People paddle. One guy did one of their other events prone on a surfboard for God knows, I think 70 miles.
Oh my jeez.
Yeah. But the first prize is $10,000 cash, and it's nailed to a board at the dock where they pull in. So they nailed the board. And the second prize
Yeah.
is a set of steak knives.
Is a steak knife?
Steak knives. A whole set. Like that's it. That's it.
I love that.
It is the funniest, like you would love all their promotional materials. It's very clever. It's very funny. But Willow Arts, in Willow Arts's nice, fun way, approached me about rowing in an ocean quad for an event called the 70-48, which is 70 miles and you have 48 hours to do it. And you basically row all night, all day.
Yeah.
You're pulling over only when absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
But in a quad, I'm like, my body couldn't do that. Number one, like I couldn't do a quad for that long, but Willow's hot on it. So if you're interested in doing 70 miles overnight in potentially horrible conditions,
find Willow.
and you identify as LGBTQIA, Michael, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
Because Michael's going to Charles as JL, right?
Rowing in an 8, I believe. Yep.
Is that in our event in the mixed 8?
No. I don't think that it's a director's challenge 8. I don't believe so.
If it's a mixed 8, it has to be. But if it's an all, because there's no other mixed 8 events.
Oh, there's no Masters mixed 8 at the.
That's why the Directors Cup is the only one.
Oh, then I guess it's a director's.
I think. Wait. Okay. Where were we on our list?
Oh no, he's in a men's club 8, not a mixed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's related to JL, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's probably chiming in.
Yes.
Men's club 8. Okay. What else was on our list?
Okay. So I had this crazy thing happen at practice last night.
Right, the Rogue Wave. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about this story, but also get opinions on how to properly handle this situation. So I row on the Anacostia River. It's relatively calm. Nothing terribly exciting ever happens. We do have some powerboat traffic, but it's Yeah, but it is, a power boat that's usually pretty well controlled. Nothing crazy ever happens. Last night, we are heading downriver, and literally out of nowhere, this like a wave, not just a little roller, but like a wave starts coming at us towards our bow.
And
So,
what kind of boat are you in?
and it was a mixed eight, and I'm in my launch.
So it's an 8.
It's an eight coming at us, and I'm in the
Did you try to
launch.
block it?
I didn't even have time. Like all of a sudden, it was there. And it's coming at us. I'm like, oh fuck. Now, as a coxswain, the thing that I'm pretty sure I was taught to do and have done for years and years is to get at about a 45-degree angle to a wave.
Ooh, I was
Yeah.
always taught be in the trough parallel.
Okay, so this is my question. So the other coach who's with us exactly said, get yourself parallel to this thing. So we get parallel to this wave because
And
you don't want to be perpendicular because then it's going to pick you up and your boat can, right?
I have the photos to prove that that's will break your boat in half. Yes.
So Larissa's chiming in and also saying parallel. Okay, so this is good to know. I think with smaller waves, I tend to do a 45, but this thing was like a ginormous wave, and the coach said, let's get parallel to it. So we get parallel to it, and immediately it's just like comes up and over, dumps into the boat, and then there's like a couple of rollers behind it that start filling up the boat.
And you've got your bailer in your safety launch. Yes.
So no.
Oh, fail.
Yeah. So we
Oh,
don't always have a bailer, which I don't know why. Sometimes
probably
it's
because you've never needed one.
yeah. And the irony was we get back to the boathouse and there were like 3 extras in our equipment cage.
Plus, your
So
boat probably weighed like 1,000 pounds to pick up.
it did. It weighed 1,000 pounds. So right, so it's filling up, and this was the first time I've ever seen this happen, and I really thought that we were going to get swamped and we were going to be saving rowers from the water. Luckily, that didn't happen. It just barely stayed afloat. We had a rower, coxswain in who was, not coxswain size. So we pulled him into the launch. We took out our stroke seat and I hopped in. I hopped in the coxswain area. It was full of water. I kind of like sat up on the stern. But anyway, so the whole point was I'm very curious. Big wave, little waves, big enough that you're kind of worried about it. What do you do as a coxswain? And everybody else is saying, chiming in, parallel.
But
So
the other piece of that
yeah,
is try to keep rowing.
yeah,
At
that's right.
least half boat, because
Yeah,
what's going to happen is if you're stopped, at least when people are rowing, you're assuming they're keeping their handle kind of in the spot that you need them to keep it in, right?
hmm,
But if they're just let loose on their own, they could let go. They
yeah,
could, like, if they're just sitting, it's scarier. It's like when we go through wakes, we do a power 10, even though it's
yeah.
really shit rowing. It's like we go through a power 10. So if you are a fan of keeping rowing, I see Leslie Rogers Evans is if it isn't that bad, we go half slide. That's smart. You know,
Yeah,
we go kind of the other way and do a power 10. At least that's what we did at Conibear.
yeah.
But yes, I can definitely tell you if you go duck dive like you're a surfer into the wave. Um, I've I've got wonderful photos to show you of
Of
a
broken boats. Yeah,
broken in half that
yeah,
happened on my watch at a National Learn to Row Day. So it's terrifying.
yeah.
Um,
All right.
okay,
Well, thank you everyone for the feedback. It was crazy. It was like being in a wave on an ocean, and I've never had that happen on the river before. So it was one of those first time for everything. Learned some lessons, and I'll be ready next time.
so I just want to say a shout out to our sponsors, Concept 2 and Lake Washington Rowing Club. And we have some special announcement about Concept 2.
Do
Okay, so do you ever wonder where the Concept 2 came from? The rowing machine, I mean, not the oars. Obviously, we know where oars came from, but how are oars made? But we have so Concept 2 has been a sponsor, kind of started because Judy Gear, the husband of Dick Dreisigacker, there's the brothers, Dick and Pete. They live in Vermont on Craftsbury, where the Craftsbury Center is. And Judy Gear got on our show as part of Daniela Nakaslova's
Voices
book,
in Rhyme.
Women's Voices in Rowing. Daniela came on the show with Michelle Carpenter from Rowing Ireland and Judy Gear, and then I think there was one other person. But so we got friendly with Judy Gear, and she's a big fan, and we love Judy. She's an Olympian in her own right, national team rower in her own right from the 70s and 80s. So we owe her big because we had her help me herd the brothers. So Monday, we are interviewing Pete and Dick Dreisigacker on the podcast.
Yeah. So these are two brothers who, out of like the back of their van and their kitchen, started making oars like 40 years ago. Yeah. And you guys kind of know the story from there. Generally speaking, they went from making oars to developing the first Concept A or Model A erg. And today their rowing machines, bike ergs, and ski ergs are ubiquitous. So we're going to pick their brains. What Tara and I like to do is talk to our guests, not just about their club or their business, but who they are as rowers. So we want to know how they got into the sport, what they loved about it to begin with. And, I'm really curious to ask them about, obviously, talk about this. Like, I want to know early on if they ever thought that they would fail, or if right off the bat they were like, we are providing goods and services that nobody else is. And so this thing's like on a trajectory, and it's always been on that trajectory.
Well, I read an article about kind of interviewing innovators and entrepreneurs, like, because Rachel and I are always still learning about how to be good interviewers and how to do good podcasts, and this is kind of a big one for us, so we really want to get this one right. If you have a question for them, absolutely let us know. But I don't know if you saw my email to them. I posited a sample question as, how did you know, what was the moment that you knew your product was going to be the standard? Mm-hmm. Like, how did you, when did you know? Yesterday, ironically enough, I got do you know what Indiegogo is? It's like a Kickstarter thing, Indiegogo. I got an Indiegogo where they did spotlight on like 4 different projects. And one of them was this like fold up rower machine that goes in your house somewhere, like folds up into this like thing. And I'm like, okay, they started the indoor rower period. Like maybe there was like a bandy kind of thing before then. I don't know if there was anything really. I don't feel like they were riffing off of something, but I don't know. We didn't hear about it.
Yes, I definitely want to talk to them about that because, right, like we've seen, like late 1800s, early 1900s, the basic, like super basic seat on a slide with like a handle that you pulled towards you, right? We've seen like women on on fancy boats, doing those. But yeah, a sliding seat rowing machine like that didn't exist as far as I know. And then they introduced the digital, display and the monitor. So anyway,
we can't wait to ask them like about their failures and about their successes and challenges of creating such a huge company. And I'm interested in how they built the team that they have, that does it all for them. And then, one thing we didn't really talk with them yet about is like, how does Craftsbury, for instance, fit into that, or the Craftsbury racing team? Does it even have anything to do with that? But I'm so excited to just meet them and like. We've actually talked to Dick before, because remember when we interviewed Judy, he was sitting behind her, and so he was like,
yeah,
and we were like,
yeah, that was awesome. We're like, oh my god, he's right there.
Yeah, super cute.
Yeah,
I just imagine them being these like big, tall, sort of Vermont guys, just big, tall things, just
they are. I'm hoping that they're easy to talk to. I'm sure that they will be. And I'm hoping that they're down to earth. And I think it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah. Judy's so great. Like, I think he married up when he married Judy for sure. Like we can already assume that because she's a goddess for sure. But thank you to Concept 2 for sponsoring the podcast. Now at closing in on 12,000 downloads and
Yes.
50 something episodes. And thank you all for listening to it.
We had a great month this last month. Lots of people were tuning in, which is really exciting to see. Hey, Tara, I've got one last thing that I'd like to mention
Yeah.
before we start wrapping up. So I know this is a steady state, but we definitely use this platform to talk about a few different things and our other side gigs. So, if you don't mind, I just want to give a little plug for DC Strokes Rowing Club, which just about 2 weeks ago announced a first of its kind scholarship fund for LGBTQ rowers, coaches, and coxswains across the country. And in just the last 2 weeks, the fundraiser has really done quite well, but they've got a little bit more money that they'd like to raise. Details forthcoming about that scholarship and opportunities to apply for it, but right now they're kind of just in that initial fundraising phase. If you are interested in helping out, you can go to dcstrokes.org/shop. And there's some t-shirts available there. There's also an opportunity to make just an individual donation. If you're interested in that, let me know. So I hope you will check it out. That fundraiser is running just through August 31st, so about 5 more days until that shop probably is going to close. I hope you will check it out and help out DC Strokes with this brand new scholarship fund.
Now, what's the scholarships for?
They want to help LGBTQ rowers, coaches, and coxswains get coaching certifications. They want to help send people to conventions. They would like to help people pay their dues for their club dues. Probably a few more things are on the list, but those are like the 3 big ones to help people get on the water and really participate in the rowing community.
Great. As purveyors of our own Changemaker Scholarship, I think it's awesome. I mean, anytime we can continue to open the doors for people, however they identify, we have a Changemaker program, and that's just intended for people who have a vision, and that'll be coming back this fall, hopefully, with some new ideas. I love that. And just so everybody knows, these kinds of scholarships exist. So, these kinds of things are not unheard of. Your boathouse could start one, your club could start one, your club could apply for one. Another example of one is that Pocock Foundation does rower scholarships for juniors, for kids who can't afford their fees or need help with uniforms and stuff like that. So, maybe we should do some like clearinghouse of, scholarship opportunities and maybe do a little blog post about that.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. And like, I wonder if like Mary Whipple offers a scholarship to her thing or, to Ninth Seat. Yeah, it's just, and officially U.S. Rowing offers scholarships to convention. It's never been an easy process. It's always a little discombobulated, as you can imagine, but we did Changemaker scholarships to send people to the virtual conferences 2 years in a row. And I know I've gone as a scholar at least 1 year to a convention, which was really good. I mean, considering how expensive it can be. I'm hoping they do hybrid. I wonder why they didn't ask that in their survey. If you would do a hybrid, because I think doing a webinar style with live, it's a lot of tech, but I think it would be great. So that's an opportunity for you and I. If they're not doing online version, we could be doing, at the convention, some sort of webinar version. But I have to go.
Okay. Well, this has been great. It's always awesome to chat with you. I love when people join us and give us their 2 cents about what's going on in the week and join the conversation. We will be back next Friday, same time, 8 a.m. out west, 11 out here in the east. And you can join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And let us know what's on your mind. We love to, we can chat about anything all day long, but let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods, and we'll add it to our slate to talk about next week.
Yeah, and if you ever have an idea for a club spotlight or someone to be on our podcast, maybe someone in your club who is just being awesome and we should meet them, definitely let us know. You can find us on our website. If you'd like to support us financially, we have Patreon levels starting at, I think, $5 a month.
Mhm.
And we have a nice big growing group of people who are supporting us. So thank you to all of our Patreons.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Let's check back in. I'd like to know how your weekends go if you're racing. And otherwise, we will see you next Friday for coffee chat. All right, Tara, have a good one.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.